Hey guys, welcome to Rationality, Reason, and Reality. I'm Supernova. This is the fourth part of my four-part series on God's justice, and it might be a little bit longer than the others. I've already summed up all the things that God screws up about justice, how he does punishment wrong. And this one I'm going to discuss how punishment can be used right, the process of modifying somebody's behavior through operant conditioning. Typically, this would be something that you'd apply to a child because our culture only allows so many people to be the targets of operant conditioning. So that's usually what we do. We discipline our children. Now, the first step in modifying a child's behavior is that you need to make sure that their behavior is modifiable before you use operant conditioning. Because obviously, if it's not, it won't work. I had a friend who had a son who kept wetting the bed and peeing his pants, and he kept punishing his son every time, and it wasn't working. And chances are the reason is because it was like a medical condition or something. His son couldn't help it. He shouldn't have been punishing in that case. In a Christian context, we often see this in gay therapy, where gay Christians want to become straight, and so they use operant conditioning techniques, and it tends not to work. And one of the reasons why is because that behavior is probably not modifiable, at least not in everyone. In the Bible, we see that everybody who sins goes to hell. That's like the major deterrent from sinning, and it doesn't work. Everybody sins. I mean, the Bible says everyone sins, and it doesn't matter how bad the punishment is. You just can't stop. People do too many acts, and there are too many things that are sinful in the Bible for anybody to avoid ever doing a sin, especially since many people would sin before they ever learned what sin is. You just can't avoid that. So, number one, you have to make sure that the behavior is actually modifiable. Number two, the person that you're disciplining actually has to trust you. I discussed this a bit in parts 1 and 2, how if you're arbitrary and punish people for things that they didn't do wrong, you're simply not going to fix the problem. You can't be so inconsistent. You actually have to keep your punishment, your spankings or whatever, to only when discipline is needed, because otherwise it just won't work. The whole thing is based on cause and effect. If your child is doing wrong and you punish them, they expect that cause of doing the thing wrong will lead to the effect of punishment. If it doesn't, if they're going to get that effect whether they did the cause or not, they're just not going to learn that link. It's just not going to happen. And so they're going to act arbitrarily. You just can't send mixed messages like that. Number three is operant conditioning itself. You enforce good behavior. When you see somebody doing something that you want them to do, you enforce it by giving them something positive or taking away something bad. And then you punish them when they don't do that behavior. And you have to be consistent. You have to do it every time. And you have to use both elements. Again, the gay therapy messes this up badly because they try to punish gay men when they do something wrong by pain, snapping a band against their wrist, or through disgust. I'm not even going to discuss that. But they don't do anything positive for the guy feeling lust towards a woman. And if it doesn't, he's only getting half the treatment. It just won't work. So again, the gay therapy is just a failure. It seems like a good idea because it's based on the science, but it doesn't apply it properly. And then last of all, you have to monitor the behavior. You have to actually see it happening, so that if it's done in secret, for instance, the person learns again that cause doesn't cause the effect. If somebody can do whatever you told them not to do in secret and they get away with it, they'll just continue to do it in secret. And there's only so much a person can do about that, but you at least have to follow up on it as much as you can and try to be aware of that. And God, who's supposedly omnipotent, ought to be able to do that, but we can see, since he doesn't apply a consistent punishment, since whatever sin you do will not be followed by the same punishment every time, if there were any punishment. Obviously, I don't believe there is, because I don't think there's any God watching you or punishing you. But if there were, that might actually work. But it doesn't. God is a total failure at punishing, because he doesn't monitor your behavior. He doesn't punish consistently. He punishes arbitrarily. He does not understand operant conditioning, which makes sense because he doesn't exist. Now, of course, this argument, none of it actually hinges on God's non-existence. Through this whole thing about God's justice, I'm just talking about if he were real, if he did exist, as the Bible says he does, if he did the acts in the Old Testament that we've looked at, he's not the person you think he is. He's not just. He doesn't understand justice, which ought to have been obvious from the fact that he holds the punishment of hell for everybody, no matter what the crime. That's just the most silly idea of justice that anybody ever had. The maximum punishment for the minimum crime. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this series. If you have anything to say about it, feel free to comment below, and I'll catch you in my next video. Peace out.